F? What's that? Wow, how hard can it be? That did not go well. Hey, it's Chris from Good Enough Guitar, where we tackle the psychology of practice in your journey to become a better player. I may not be an expert guitarist, but I do have a PhD in motivation, so let's see if we can't figure this out together. Click on the subscribe button to keep up with the latest tips. And if you find these videos helpful, be sure to hit the like button. Leave me a comment. Odds are, if there's something you're struggling with, you're not the only one. So let's jump into it. You've started out playing guitar and you've done nicely to this point. And then it comes. The F chord. A major obstacle to many, impeding their progress when trying to play guitar. Likely to be the first of the bar chords that you encounter, they don't call it the F chord for nothing. And you'll often hear the F word spoken by many guitarists. That's right, frustration. You suddenly find yourself having to play multiple strings with just one finger. So let's take a look at the challenges that lie with bar chords. So you've bought your first guitar and you have your first song picked out. You've had this song ready to play for years. You can hardly wait to sit down and learn it. But instead of sounding like this, here is how things go. Wait a second. Why is my first finger over so many strings? Let's try again. If only we had some sort of clamp that was made specifically for the guitar. Wait a second. I can't do it. I can't. But you are determined. And you are resourceful. And you like coffee. Coffee in hand. You get to work. There must be somebody out there who has encountered this problem before. I remember there was a guy and he had scissors on his hands. I wonder if that guy might be onto something. Hmm. There's a lot of information out there on bar chords. Whether you've had a teacher show you how to play them, whether or not you've looked online or on videos, you'll find lots and lots of information about bar chords. Sometimes you're going to find that information isn't necessarily the same. You might find differences in the ways that people show you how to play bar chords. And it's likely you'll hit the F chord as your first bar chord. And when you do, it's a real monster. Not only is it a full bar chord across all 6 strings, but it also requires you to push those strings down at the first fret where the string tension is the highest. So let's review 8 tips that I've found most helpful when learning and practicing bar chords. There are many more strategies out there, so if these ones don't work for you, take the time to have a look and see what other strategies might be out there. When learning and practicing bar chords, be careful. There is a real tendency to use your hand as if it were a clamp. However, you're eventually going to need to move in and out of different bar chords. Using it like a clamp is not going to get you there. By putting too much pressure on a bar chord, you're also risking injury to your fingers, to your hands, to your wrist, and to your forearm. You need to take breaks. You'll feel that quite a bit of pain and tension will build up within your hand and wrist, and you don't want to push that too far. In a similar sort of way, if you carry too much tension throughout your fingers, your hand, your wrist, and your arm, you need to be monitoring for a level of flexibility. Your elbow should be closer in, and in many ways your hand should almost not bend the strings, but just sort of gently pull. There is a certain amount of pressure, absolutely, that you need to push those strings to make the bar chord, but if you're really tensing up your arm and your shoulder, your hand and your wrist, that's not going to get you there. That's not the right way to do it. Eventually, over time, you'll find it's as much technique as it is anything else, although again, you need a certain amount of strength in that hand in order to maintain the pressure on those strings. And most of all, be patient. Bar chords will take time. Bar chords will take technique and a real sense of what it feels like when that bar is pressed accordingly and notes are ringing out the way they should. Gentle, flexible, and patient. That's the first tip. The second tip on bar chords is don't avoid them. If you start a habit of avoiding things that are difficult on guitar, that's going to be a road to nowhere. You're going to find it too easy to give up on future challenges if you find that you're avoiding playing bar chords. Many people will use a simpler version of the F chord, which looks like this, and it's completely reasonable to do so. However, if you find that you're using that easier version of the F chord just to avoid the full bar, you might want to seriously stop and think about what's the point of avoiding this and what's that going to mean down the road when I avoid other obstacles that I encounter when guitar is put in front of me. The third tip relates to the posture and position of your index finger versus the other fingers on your fretting hand. When playing bar chords, it may feel unusual to have one finger pressed flat, when typically, when we're playing guitar, we have our fingers nice and arched over top of the strings as to not interfere with the strings above or below. Adding the bar creates a bit of a discrepant feeling underneath your fingers and maintaining that pressure in a way that might feel different in the beginning. Maintaining consistent pressure across all of your fingers will ensure that your bar chord will sound as it should. And as always the case, don't forget with bar chords, the closer your fingers are to the fret, the clearer your note is going to sound. It's sometimes easy to forget that with your middle, ring, and pinky fingers when you're paying so much attention to what your hand is doing to maintain the index finger for the bar chord shape. A big trick to bar chords is making sure you're using the right part of your index finger when pressing down on the strings. Pressing on the fleshy part is not going to give you that tension against the string in order to have it stay firm. It's this part of your finger. You want to gently curl towards the left in order to use this bony part. You may find then shifting that bony part of your finger across the strings, you can feel the pressure more right in here versus the pad of your finger. So to practice that, one thing you might want to try is shifting your bar finger up string by string while paying close attention to what it feels like when those strings are underneath the bony part of your finger and you're getting a good sound from it. You might start with the first string. That sounds good. Move up, first and second strings. Clear. First, second, third. First, second, third, fourth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Sixth string. All sound nice and clear. And pay attention to what that feels like underneath your bar finger. The F chord, again, can be difficult because you're required to press down all 6 strings on the first fret where the tension is the highest as it crosses over the nut. One thing you might keep in mind is considering that F shape as a shape, or I like to call it movable F, so that I'm taking the F shape and you can then play it moving along the frets. For example, the 5th fret, although your root note is no longer an F, it's an A, so you're playing an A chord. If we call this movable F, you can then move that F shape across all of the frets. And last tip is that you might find playing bar chords to be easier when you play them on either a nylon string guitar or an electric guitar. The acoustic steel string guitar tends to be quite a bit more challenging. You might find working your way up on either an electric or a nylon string guitar provides you with greater incentive for then building to playing bar chords on a steel string acoustic guitar. You're likely to find that bar chords represent a rite of passage when playing guitar. It's the thing that might stand out to you when you're shifting from being an early or beginning guitarist to an intermediate level. Bar chords open up so much more of the musical repertoire and enhance your abilities to play guitar immeasurably. In doing so, playing bar chords should help you get there when it comes to learning your favorite song. And it should also keep you from considering making modifications to major body parts. As always, thanks for watching. And stay tuned to Good Enough Guitar for more tips and tricks that not only get you started, but also help keep you going. Until next time.